The Prince of Egypt, a movie that more than surpasses being another rebranded Bible story. Its marvelous animation, entertaining characters, and phenomenal voice acting make for a testament of combined effort under one passion to create a true spectacle for the eyes. Yeah, the music's pretty fire too, I guess. Stephen Schwartz and Hans Zimmer deliver us. Get it? I did a little joke there. I think you get. These two bring us a brilliant score with a blend of theater-esque lyrics and a fusion of ethnic and orchestral instruments. This combo of music acts as one of, if not the most powerful tool in this movie to bring to life not only the story as a whole, but the dynamic between Moses and his brother and how they turn from rivals to adversaries in this war of attrition.
But how? How does the music define this relationship between two brothers?
I'm glad you asked. Now, for anyone who may not know the movie, let me summarize it, or, you could just read the Book of Exodus. The Prince of Egypt takes place in a, ancient Egyptian kingdom that uses slave labor as its source of prosperity, those slaves being Hebrew. In an attempt to escape from the slaughter, the beginning of the movie is basically like slaughter of the Hebrew children. Baby Moses ends up being ferried by a river as a family's last hope.
Call it luck or divine intervention, but he ends up getting adopted by the royal family.
Growing up with his brother Ramses, he eventually discovers that he's one of the Hebrews.
And to add fuel to that flame, he's placed with the burden of freeing the entirety of the slaves from captivity. He ends up becoming a savior for his people, and an enemy to his brother, who ends up becoming the new pharaoh.
Yo, I'm putting this in post because I missed it earlier, thanks Gabe. But after Moses runs away from his family, he manages to get all the way to Midian and gets Jethro'd into being happy again. And after that, that's when God tells him that he's got to free the slaves from captivity. Bit of an important point. I don't know how I missed that. Okay, back to the other guy. It becomes a divine struggle between the two of them, one advocating for change, while the other is too set in tradition to make that change.
While we're at it, why not give a background to the minds behind the music? Hans Zimmer is a name that needs no true introduction. We've all heard his scores in some way. His work is found everywhere, as he's worked on the scores for household name movies like The Lion King, Kung Fu Panda, and the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, and according to my research, he's also composed for a Skylanders game and a Mr. Beast video. Get your bag, I guess.
Along with Zimmer, we're also graced with the lyrics of Stephen Schwartz, another phenomenal composer and lyricist. Schwartz is also iconic, as he's not only had his presence in movies like Pocahontas and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but also in the musical theater world. He is responsible for hits like Godspell and Wicked.
I hear that's getting a movie. That's pretty cool.
He's responsible for the flagship song of the movie, When You Believe, as well as the lyrics of the song acting as the cries of the Hebrews, Deliver Us. I'm sure you've all heard of that one.
Yeah, that one's pretty hard to ignore. These two combine their respective talents and styles to create an ethnic orchestral sound with very powerful and catchy lyrics whenever our characters sing. And now with all of that background out of the way, let's get into the meat of our video. And now that I think about it, shouldn't you be gone? Like, you're supposed to leave 3 bits ago.
Gadzooks, you're right! I was supposed to meet the fellas at the parlor a while ago. Good luck with the rest of your video, young man. I fare thee well!
Actually, who was that guy? Now, the first thing when it comes to Moses and Ramses is their tension and differences throughout the movie, as it's not only portrayed on screen, but in the melodies and instruments used for them. Even as early as the Deliver Us sequence, we can hear the sound given to Moses and his family. As Moses' mother Yocheved places our baby golden boy into the river, we're treated to the song River Lullaby, which from there becomes Moses' main leitmotif.
Hush now, my baby, be still, love, don't cry. Sleep as you're rocked by the stream.
It's this soft song imbued with a certain warmth and hope for the future, a symbol of the burden and faith placed on the prince later on in the story, and it never truly stays the same as it mutates throughout the course of Moses' life and through the course of the story. We can even hear this melody come back as early as 10 minutes into the movie, whenever he whistles it to himself at the palace, acting as both a connection to his past and a disjoint due to the present.
Well, that went well. Just go away. Could have been worse.
In case you needed any more proof that it was his leitmotif, that's the proof. It's this melody that plays when the news is broken that he's not a part of the royal bloodline as he thinks he is. And it's also the melody that plays in the background whenever he discovers the atrocities committed by his father, the pharaoh. And it's not just this melody either. Later on in the movie, when God first approaches Moses, we can hear this grandiose, mystic piece called The Burning Bush. I've personally coined it as the voice of God, but you know, I can't argue against the people that made it. This is a piece that plays usually whenever Moses does the wonders of the Lord. You know, stuff like making a stick turn into a snake, parting the sea, you know, little things like that. Now, compare these two pieces to the instrumentation of Ramses, who holds no true leitmotif, but rather instrumental characterization. His on-screen presence is highlighted by these traditional Egyptian sounds and instruments, played more intensely whenever he becomes upset. And the thing about Ramses' musical characterization is that it never really changes or adopts anything different. It remains true to its ideals in a sense. It clings to the idea that it's already got set up for itself. The music refuses to let go of its already established course, just like how Ramses refuses to become the weak link and stays true to the standards that are placed upon him by his father. Poor dude has generational trauma from his dad along with the stress of trying to lead a country. You know, in my day, they called that tradition. The times that we can see these two musical ideas converge, that being orchestral harmonies and ethnic instrumentation, is when both brothers are on screen. Either as young teenagers gallivanting through the city in a chariot race, or aged brothers torn apart, reminiscing on the times that they once had. This choice of musical storytelling audibly displays not only the brotherly bond they possess, but the changes, or lack thereof in Ramses' case, that these two go through over the course of the film. And the two most important pieces of music that support this are... shocker, the pivotal point in Moses' arc and the musical representation of the plagues is the most important part of this theory. Nevertheless, it's not hard to see why. Let's take a look at the plagues. This song is a representation of God's wrath and punishment upon the land of Egypt to free the Hebrews. This can even be expanded upon, considering that this is more of a reprimand for Ramses' arrogance and refute. If we look to the lyrics of the song, we can notice that Moses' lyrics are those of regret for what he must bring upon the land of Egypt.
Once I called you brother, once I thought the chance to make you laugh was all I ever wanted.
He sings of how it hurts him to see his home like this, and how he sees his brother as stubborn to see this devastation upon the land and not release the Hebrews from slavery. These lyrics are sung to the melody of All I Ever Wanted, Moses' song from when he first discovers his true heritage as a Hebrew.
Graceful rooms of alabaster stone, all I ever wanted.
The use of this melody acts as a tribute not only to the change that Moses has undergone, but how he still sees Egypt as his home and hates to see it in this broken state. Heck, you could even argue that when he says, "Let my people go," it could be used for the Hebrews and Egyptians, who are now both suffering due to Ramses' stubbornness. Speaking of Ramses, his lyrics and voice are harshly drenched in this contempt and hatred for both Hebrew slaves and his brother.
You who I called brother, how could you have come to hate me so? Is this what you wanted?
He sees Moses as this enemy to his empire. And if we look at the dynamic of the music, it becomes louder and reflects the cruel and bitter nature of the lyrics, lending itself to the lividity of Ramses. Now, if you contrast this with the more somber and earnest tone of Moses' voice and lyrics, these two seem like they're in completely different mindsets. Moses still holds Egypt dear to himself but is willing to let it go to do the will of God, while Ramses still clings to the preset ideals and triples down on keeping the Hebrews enslaved, willing to sacrifice Egypt's well-being in the process. And this is where my final point comes into play. As we watch the movie, we can see the split between the two brothers grow as they go their separate ways. In every encounter between them, Ramses becomes more hostile, while Moses holds his love for his brother, silently wishing for his mercy upon God's people so things can go back to the way they were. And the way the music portrays this is through its absence. Whenever the two interact, the score goes silent for a certain amount of time. This silence only becomes more and more elongated as we become more detached from each other. And it's this silence that buries the end of each other's arcs as Ramses' fate becomes set and Moses' future is placed in the hands of God. Sorry I got all serious there. Anyway. In conclusion, the music of The Prince of Egypt isn't just another accessory. It's the emotional language that captures the complexity of Moses and Ramses' relationship. As the music evolves from harmonious to distant, we witness their relationship unravel, each note emphasizing the cost of destiny and the tragedy of lost brotherhood. But hey, that's just a theory. A film! Wait, can I legally quote? Wow!